Namaste. What millions of people around the world, and especially Americans, are experiencing right now, it has a name. I'm going to tell you what that name is. I'm going to explain exactly why we are feeling it, and I'm going to give you something real that you can do about it. So, please, stay with me for a few minutes. You see, for the last few years, something has been happening to people. I don't have to tell you that. But it's not one thing. It's an accumulation of things. You've been watching events unfold that feel deeply wrong, fundamentally wrong, the kind of wrong that sits on your chest and it doesn't leave. Some people feel ashamed of their own country right now, ashamed to explain to their children what is happening, ashamed in front of the rest of the world. Some people have just gone quiet, checked out. Some people have stopped watching the news, stopped talking about it, because there's only so much a person can take. And then there's the weight of it underneath, the financial pressure, the anxiety about the future, the feeling that no matter how hard you work, something keeps shifting under your feet. We used to get angry at injustice. Now we just scroll past it. We used to believe good people doing the right thing made a difference. Now, you're not so sure. That emptiness. That's not depression. It's a specific injury, and it has a name. It's called moral injury. Now, let me explain what that actually means, moral injury, because this is not just a therapy term. This is something very specific. Moral injury happens when you witness something that violates your deepest sense of right and wrong. And you feel powerless to stop it. The powerlessness. It's not just stress. Stress is when life is hard. Moral injury is different. Moral injury is what happens when you watch injustice win, when you see the truth twisted in front of your eyes, when you do the right thing and watch the wrong thing get rewarded. And when that happens over and over and over again, the term was first used to describe soldiers coming back from war, traumatized by what happened to them, what had done to them, and what they witnessed, what they couldn't prevent, and what they were ordered to participate in. That is moral injury. You do not need to have been to war to carry it. And the perfect example, moral injury as I can think of, is the black population in this country. I want to talk about it honestly, without politics, without any agenda, just truth. What was done to black people in America was not just physical brutality, although the physical brutality was real and it was savage. What was done was a systematic destruction of everything that makes a people whole. Language, gone. Whatever language your ancestors spoke before they were put on the ship, gone. Family, deliberately torn apart. Mothers separated from children, husbands separated from wives. As policy, identity erased, your name replaced, your history replaced, your religion replaced, your entire sense of who you were and where you come from replaced. And then after 400 years of that, after slavery, after Jim Crow, after legal segregation, after redlining, after every system designed to keep a people from accumulating wealth, safety, and dignity. One day, someone looked up and said, "Okay, you're free now. You're equal now. Go ahead." As if 400 years of that kind of magically resets. As if generational trauma just magically resets. As if a family that was never allowed to build wealth for generations can just catch up now. It doesn't work that way. Moral injury doesn't just live in one person. It moves through families. It moves through communities, through generations. Just an unhealed wound because nobody was ever allowed to treat it. You cannot put a dollar amount on that kind of damage. You cannot put a number on what it does to a child who grows up watching the parents work harder than anyone else, and still fall further behind. Or what it does to a person who has to teach their son how to drive, how how to survive a traffic stop. And believe me, I'm a brown man in America. My ancestors did not have to go through what the black people in this country had to go through. And I know very well that the black civil rights movements gave me the freedom that I enjoy. And despite all of that so-called freedom, I had to do the same with my two boys. Teach them how to survive a traffic stoplight in the US of A. Now that is not racism. That's moral injury, passed down generation to generation. And it's still happening. Now, I want to zoom out for a moment. Because what was done to the black people in America and what was done to the colonized people across India, across Africa, across the Caribbean, Latin America, it was not even primarily about hate. We have to understand that. It was about two things: power and profit. There were always two groups running this machine: politicians who need control of land and people, and the second group, industrialists who needed cheap labor and open markets. The politicians provided the law and the force. The industrialist provided the money and the motive. You see, these two groups were not really about race, although that was a tactic, a technique used. Most of them were of European descent. But this was never about white people versus everybody else. Nope. Because here's the problem that they had. Poor white people and poor black people had more in common with each other than either had with the people running the machine. And the people running the machine knew it. You see, a poor white farmer in Virginia and an enslaved black man on the next plantation were both being exploited by the same wealthy landowner. And if those two men ever figured that out and stood together, the whole system collapses. So they invented something to keep them apart. They invented the white race. Not as a biological fact, but as a political strategy. They told poor European workers, you may be poor, you may be struggling, but you're white, and that makes you better than them. They gave poor whites just enough social status, just enough psychological elevation above black people to keep them loyal to a system that was also exploiting them. W.E.B. Du Bois called it the psychological wage of whiteness. You don't get paid more. You don't get treated better. But you get to feel superior. And for a lot of people, that was enough. The manufactured racial divide kept these two groups of poor and working people, who should have been natural allies, at each starting to fight at each other. And for centuries, that is not history. This is still running today. See, every time you see poor and working class people fighting each other over race, while the people at the top keep accumulating power and wealth, you're watching the same machine. Now, different century, but same strategy. What's happening in Washington? What's happening in Washington right now? I'm not going to give you a political speech or anything. That's not what this is. But I will tell you this. What you're watching in Washington is not chaos. It looks like chaos. It's designed to look like chaos. But there's a strategy underneath it all. And I'm sure you're aware of it. It's called overwhelm. When you flood people with one outrageous thing after another so fast that they cannot process any single thing before the next one arrives. When that happens, something happens to the human mind. It shuts down. The human mind shuts down from overload. Psychologists call it decision fatigue, compassion fatigue, outrage fatigue, whatever you want to call. But let's be honest, because it should be called deliberate moral injury. When a person is morally injured, they don't organize, they don't resist, they don't vote, they don't speak up. They just disappear into their couch and wonder why they feel so empty. A population that has stopped believing that anything can change is the easiest population in the world to control. Breaking your courage is the whole point. So, What do you do with this? I want to go to Bhagavad Gita because people think this is a peaceful and gentle text about meditation and acceptance, but it's not. The Bhagavad Gita is a conversation on a battlefield between a warrior and his teacher about whether to fight or not to fight. And a lot of people know the beginning of the story, that Arjuna collapses. He sees injustice everywhere. He sees corruption everywhere. He sees people who should know better choosing the wrong side. And Arjuna says, Krishna, I cannot do this. I don't have the heart for it. And people have heard bits and pieces about Bhagavad Gita. They remember the part about detachment, about peace, about releasing outcome, all of that. But they skip what Krishna actually said first. Krishna looked at Arjuna and said, "This is not compassion. This is weakness dressed up as virtue." He said, "You're making excuses to protect people who do not deserve your protection." You are showing mercy to people whose action have gone past, way past, the right to your mercy. So, get up, pick up your bow, and do what is yours to do. That's what Krishna said. And that is Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not passive. It's not just about acceptance. It's precise, fearless action. Now let me tell you what happened in India, colonial times. For years, the response to British colonialism was polite. Petitions, negotiations, request of reform, begging the oppressor for mercy. And the British stayed. Nothing happened. Then something shifted. You see, a 23-year-old man named Bhagat Singh decided he was done with being polite. He said, if you want to make the deaf hear, sometimes you need to make noise that they cannot ignore. And so they did. And then came Subhash Chandra Bose, a man who looked at Gandhi's peaceful resistance and said, I respect it, and it's not enough. Subhash Chandra Bose left India, built an army, the Indian National Army. 45,000 soldiers who had served under British command. and chose to switch sides. They marched under one declaration: give me blood, and I will give you freedom. In 1946, Indian soldiers in the Royal Indian Navy went against their British officers. In Bombay, in Karachi, the men who were supposed to protect the empire refused. Think about what that actually means. These were trained soldiers, armed soldiers, inside the military machine. And they looked at each other and said, "We will not fight for this." That is the most powerful thing a soldier can do. Not fight harder for the wrong side. Refuse. And that moment was the moment the British understood that it was over. It wasn't because the British suddenly grew a conscience. Not because they decided that colonialism was wrong. It was because the cost of staying became greater than the benefit. When enough people collectively refuse, the machine cannot run. You see, the British didn't leave India because Indians asked them nicely. They left because Indians stopped cooperating with their own oppression. That's the lesson. Now, I want to get to the point. Because naming the problem is not just enough. And vague inspiration is not enough. There are two things, two concrete things that history has shown us can accelerate real change. And it's faster than protests. It's faster than elections, faster than any petition ever written. The first one we already talked about. The military. Every soldier, every officer, every person in uniform takes an oath. Not to the president, not to the party, to the Constitution, to the people. That oath has a specific clause that most people are not aware of. It says, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Domestic. That word is there for a reason. When military personnel are given orders that violates the Constitution orders to suppress the very citizen they swore to protect. Those orders are unlawful. And an unlawful order must be refused. This is not mutiny, and this is definitely not treason. This is the oath working exactly as it was designed for. When the Indian sailors refused in 1946, they didn't abandon their duty. They fulfilled the duty. You see, the machine runs on the assumption that the military will always comply. But the moment that assumption breaks, everything changes. So to every person in uniform who happen to watch this, know your oath, know your rights. Know the difference between a lawful order and a political weapon. And when those two things are not the same, when they're not the same, choose the oath. The second thing, and this one is going to be uncomfortable because it requires something from all of us. Something that is actually harder for the Western world. Real sacrifice. The machine does not run on politics alone. It runs on money. And every single day, with every purchase you make, you are either funding the machine or you're not. The corporations that bankroll the politicians who pass the policies that causes the injury, they need one thing from you. They need your money. Not your vote, not your opinion, not your outrage online. They need your money. And when you take that away, when enough people take that away, they feel it immediately. They feel it faster than any election cycle. You don't have to wait till November. Faster than any Supreme Court ruling. A corporation that loses 30% of its revenue in one quarter, when it happens, it changes its behavior. Now, I know what the resistance sounds like. But I need my phone. I need my streaming service. I need my coffee from that place. I need my next day delivery. And trust me, I understand that. I live in the same world. But here is a question you have to sit with. What is your comfort actually costing you? Because the Western world has been given just enough comfort, just enough convenience, and just enough distraction. Given just enough to stay quiet. And we all know that's not an accident either. Gandhi called it. He told Indians, stop buying British clothes. Make your own. It costs you something, but do it anyway. And people thought that it was just a symbolic. It wasn't symbolic. That was economic warfare. And Gandhi knew it. Fought with a spinning wheel, not a gesture. Economic warfare. You have that same weapon right now. Your wallet. Use it like money. You don't have to give up everything, but give up something. You can find out which corporations are funding the corruption. See, there are organizations tracking all of this publicly. The information is available. And then make a decision. Every time you choose not to spend there, you're casting a vote that cannot be gerrymandered, cannot be suppressed, cannot be stolen. It just counts every single time. Krishna did not tell Arjuna to have mercy on the corrupt. He told him, your misplaced compassion will cost more lives than your action. Misplaced compassion. There are people right now who know exactly what is being done to this country. People with huge platforms who have the position. People with resources. And they're quiet. Not because they don't know, but because they're comfortable. You see, the Gita has a name for that. It's called adharma, against Dharma. And Krishna's instruction was clear. He said, do not protect it. Do not excuse it. Do not keep giving your vote. Do not keep giving your money, your loyalty, your silence. Withdraw every form of cooperation. That is not hate, and that is not division. That's Dharma in action. You see, the British Empire did not fall because of one hero, Gandhi. No. It fell because millions of ordinary people made one decision. Not today. Not with us. Not anymore. That decision is available to us right now. We don't have to build an army. But you do have to stop cooperating with what is harming you, what is breaking you. We need to tend to the injury, moral injury, and then pick up your bow. Namaste.